So Pandion Music Foundation, for anyone new here, we're a relatively new nonprofit, just got our 501(c)(3) in January, so we're almost a year old now from when we got that. And we've been running these workshops since October 2022, and have just seen amazing growth this past year. So thank you, everybody who has been involved and been showing up to these workshops and supporting us in whatever ways you have. Thank you so much. It means so much to us and helps us continue doing what we're doing. So we hold these workshops once a week with a different mentor each week to who's a professional from some area of the music industry. A lot of our focus is on sync licensing and music supervision, and helping independent artists learn more about that side of the industry and how they could potentially make income from that, as that's pretty rare, unfortunately, these days, for independent artists to make an income from their music. So trying to open up more conversations about that and share more education surrounding that area of the music industry, and how independent musicians can get involved and be just have their own more knowledge about all these areas of the industry and be their own managers and know where to find resources and community. So we're building a community on our Facebook group called the Creators Circle. So if you want to join that, you are welcome to. And all of our resources are free. So these workshops are free every week. And then we also have free Pandion Unplugged live streams on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is a community that we're building for around wellness for artists. So if you feel like you need or want more of a community of support in that area, you're welcome to join those. And there, we also have the replays up on our social media sites for that. And then we have these replays on our website.
And they will soon be turned into podcasts. So
Yes, yes, that is a thing that will be happening in 2024.
you'll be able to get the wellness live stream podcasts anytime and put them on your phone. So really,
Yeah. Yeah, and those have been great, really great so far. That's just something we saw was lacking in the industry and wanted to help fill that gap a bit, having more of a mental health and wellness support for artists, especially those who might be touring or just feeling the challenges of a music career. So, and Alec is here today, Alec Stern, who's a music supervisor and head of ads for Radish Music. His company, Radish, has led music efforts for brands such as Apple, Visa, Samsung, Google, and Delta Airlines, created full-scale music strategies for clients such as Walmart, Miller Lite, Emerson, and Kellogg's, supervised the 2021 South by Southwest audience award-winning film The Fallout, and has a slate of high-profile film and TV projects premiering in 2024 on Netflix, Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, and more. And is going to share more about music supervision and his experience in the industry and his wisdom, as Rebecca said. Hi, Alec.
Awesome. Hey, so good to be here. I definitely recognize many faces. This is such a fun community to interact with from time to time. So thank you guys all for coming out and being a part of this. So here's the deal. I have like a PowerPoint thing that I have utilized, and I've tweaked it a little bit, but the bones of it are largely for like music industry college courses. I just in seeing a bunch of the faces in this room, I know a lot of you are active musicians who have been in the sync space and have gone to things like this and workshops and collaborations and all this sorts of things. I'm starting to get the feeling that you probably all either know a lot of the information that's in that PowerPoint, or that won't necessarily be why you are here today. So I'm more than happy to go through it and like show some work and get into the bones of like what a music supervisor does and like all this sorts of things. That being said, I know we only have 50 minutes. There's a lot of people here who I presume have questions and things that they would really love to get out of this. So I don't want to like, Jordan, I don't want to like throw everything off from like what's been successful in the past, and you like feel like I'm not doing this correctly, I mainly just like, I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about you guys in any way that I can be of service and facilitate your time here. So
I love that.
what I'm thinking as a pivot, frankly, is like, I would, unless like you just want to sit back and watch a PowerPoint, we can do questions later. I would almost rather just start with questions and get the ball rolling a little bit and make sure that I'm able to answer the questions that you guys are here to hopefully get answers for. And then if there are parts of the PowerPoint or things on my company's site or whatever that I can pivot to and showcase to help explain those points, I'm more than happy to. But to like take 30, 40 minutes and go through a PowerPoint and you guys to end up being like, I didn't really need any of that, that I don't want. So if that works for
I love
you,
this
that's how I
idea.
spend stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Let's do it. And also, I forgot to mention, we have been with our music supervisor guests creating disco playlists of submissions from whoever is here at this workshop. And you can use it or not use it, but it's there for you to access if you want. So if you are open to that, we can do that today as well. So
100%.
yeah,
That
cool.
sounds
So if anyone, just as some of you probably are aware, so if you've been to other supervisor workshops, but we'll take a submission at the end of the call. I'll drop a link and you can submit any, just one mixed and mastered, ready to go, ready to use song through disco, a disco link. So I'll share that at the end. But yes, this sounds great. Let's start with questions and go from there.
cool. Okay. I mean, I'll probably just have the chat open, and Jordan, if you can help me keep an eye
Yeah.
on that, and if you want to
Sure.
help facilitate questions and things like that, that'd be great.
Mhm.
But Elaine, good to see you. I'll start with you just because I see your question as being first. What impact did the strike have on your work? Interestingly, so my company, Radish Music, we're one of few music companies that work across ads as well as film and television. A lot of music supervisors who you'll find are fairly segmented in terms of what they do. They're film people, they're TV people, or they're ad people. Myself and my business partner, Paymon, who is the director of music at Media Arts Lab, which is Apple's in-house agency, we both come from the agency world. I was, prior to Radish, I was in Chicago as the director of music for an agency called DDB, and prior to that, an agency called Leo Burnett. And so my background is predominantly in advertising. My business partners has kind of split between advertising and film and TV. And so at the beginning of this year, when there were talks that a strike might be coming, we made the business decision to pivot as hard into ads as possible, because ads would not be affected, or not nearly as affected as long form work would be by strikes. So short answer is we weren't affected all that greatly. We got very lucky that we have a diverse area of business that we can operate in. One thing that was interesting about it, was we were, us as a company, we don't have a set roster of composers who we go to for specific projects on the original music front. I'm creating bespoke scores. We really like to utilize the entire industry as much as possible when someone comes to us and asks for something to be created bespoke. And so, yeah, I mean, really kind of like the biggest impact for us was we had a lot of film composers and TV composers who were out of work that were interested in ads, which was kind of fun. And so, part of our business model, frankly, is like, particularly on the ad side, trying to bring more of the film world into ads and make them more cinematic, more interesting, utilize different types of sounds and sonic structures and music ideas and things like that. So the strike was actually relatively advantageous for us in that front, in terms of just getting a greater diversity of talent, largely from the film world, to work with us on a bunch of ad stuff. But yeah, I mean, we got fairly lucky in terms of workload. We have a couple projects that were in post that we were working on the last couple of months. We're starting to see scripts kind of come our way now that the strikes are over. So we're expecting a big boom in that space in the next year. So yeah, very curious about what the long-term effects will be, how it's going to affect production in general, how it's going to affect music. All those sorts of things are still super unknown.
Cool. I'm glad it worked out okay for you guys.
Yeah, no, we got lucky. Let's see.
Gail,
Okay.
Gail might have been next here. What kinds of projects are you excited for 2024?
I mean, I'm probably my favorite thing about what I do is I don't really necessarily know what's coming. You know, particularly on the ad side, ads move very, very, very quickly. You know, the turnaround time of, generally speaking, our involvement in an ad is just a couple of weeks. You know, we'll get brought in, maybe we're brought in on the script stage, but usually we're brought in post-production once the thing has been shot, and you've got a couple of weeks to kind of figure out the world of it before it goes out into the world. And so because of that, you know, every day is an opportunity for a totally new project to come our way that I don't really know what it's going to be just yet. And the exciting thing about that is, by extension, I don't know what kind of music I'm going to need. You know, again, like, I come from the agency world where I had a set roster of clients. And while that's great in terms of like stability, where it hurts as somebody who's creatively minded and wants to be an asset for as many different types of artists as possible, is when I was at the agency, I would have my set clients and I kind of knew what they would want anytime that they would come to us with a piece of work. And so I would routinely be a part of things like this, or listening sessions with artists. And I can't tell you the number of times that I would listen to something and I would think to myself, like, I love this, but I don't have a client who I know can utilize something like this. And at a certain point, I got really kind of frustrated by having that recurring thought as often as I did, which was one of the big impetuses for me to come out here and start this company, where I could be more client agnostic and, you know, take in work from whoever is out there. And by extension, I have no idea what kind of music any of them. And so because of that, and also adding the fact that we work on film and TV in addition to ads, film and TV generally require different types of music than an ad might. And so it just means that I have to have way more antennas up in all different spaces, and be able and willing to receive music from all different kinds of people, independent artists, bedroom producers, major artists, people who are signed, people who are unsigned, country artists, Latin artists, classical music, you know, whatever it is. And so I love being a part of this space because it allows me to go into things like this and really feel like anyone here possibly has the next great piece of music that I'm going to need for something. So let's see.
I'm gonna call on Matt.
Okay, cool.
Hand up here, and then we can go back to the chat for a minute. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, me.
Hello.
No, there might be another Matt. So
It's you.
hey, Alec, thanks for taking time for doing this. I always really enjoy the Reddish Music Matters newsletter that you send out.
Okay, thanks, man.
My wife and I have a sync agency in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're musicians too. We're dedicated. We help mostly artists from our region. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, like, if you have a preference, if artists are with a sync agency, if they're if you have a preference over like exclusivity, like where an agency's exclusive, being non-exclusive, and just your opinions on that type of thing.
That doesn't tend to make a huge impact for us as supervisors. As long as, as long as we're able to trace where the music comes from, so whether that's you're pitching directly for something that I'm asking for and I know that I got it from you because I asked for it, or if you send us something and it's in my inbox or disco library and I happen to come across it 3, 4, 5 years later, as long as I'm able to accurately trace back who sent it and who represents it, and that the rights associated with it are legible and clean, and that there's knowledge there and it's not muddled, or there's not stuff that's uncleared, or all those sorts of things. Like as long as my job to go from listening to something, really liking it, ideally selling it to a client, them really liking it, and then getting it licensed, as long as that's relatively easy and uncomplicated on my end, and I'm not presenting something to a client, having them fall in love with it, and then either not able to figure out who owns it, or trying to figure out who owns it and it's all kind of muddy and difficult to clear. Like, it's in those scenarios where, frankly, like, I look ill prepared as a music supervisor, and or we'll just move on to something else that's like we know is easier to clear. The only real sort of space that I've seen that be a little problematic is like we were working on a Walgreens campaign a month or so ago, and we had sent a brief out to a number of sync agencies. They sent us a bunch of great stuff back. One of the tracks in there was Beloved, so I found it in the original pitch, found out who had it, worked with them to get it done, and then right before it went to ship, I happened to go back through the master list of what had been sent to us, and another sync agency had actually sent the same piece of music. And so all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, what do I do here? And it turns out that the one that I had been doing the deal with, there's no really good way to figure it out. Generally speaking, rule of thumb is like, who sent it to you first? And that's kind of just, if anyone else has a better system, myself and all other music supervisors are open ears for it. That tends to just be who sent it to you first. That tends to just be who you go with. So it turns out the sync agency that I was working with, they did send it first by a matter of half an hour or something like that. So I had to reach out to the other sync company and go, hey, FYI, if you are online, you might see this spot in the next couple of weeks. We know you sent this piece of music. Unfortunately, another sync agency also sent the same piece of music. Clearly, this artist is non-exclusive, which I'm sure you know. They happened to get it to us first. Very sorry. It's nothing against you guys. This isn't a preferential thing. We just had to make a decision on who to go to, and the best way I can think of is who sent it to us first. And they, of course, were understanding. They knew that artist was non-exclusive, and there are multiple agencies pitching said artist. So that's something to think about when signing artists yourself as an agency, is do you want to be in those positions? It's tricky, but as a supervisor, it doesn't make a giant difference as long as it's clearable.
Okay, cool. I appreciate the information.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Good one. Lisa, I'll unmute you.
Hello, Alec. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Yeah, I was looking at your Walmart ad rom-com series that you've got coming out, Add to Heart, I think it's called, the name of it. And I'm just wondering, is it like, how did that concept come about? And is it like the first of its kind that's kind of doing this series and also launching on TikTok as a way to kind of monopolize the campaign for the ad. So
Yeah, so thank you so much. Yeah, I think the rest of the first couple of episodes came out last week. The rest come out, I think, this weekend. To my knowledge, it is the first of its kind. It's basically a film that's been chopped into 23 3-minute episodes. It's premiering on TikTok. It'll also be on YouTube and Roku or Peacock, I believe. In more of sort of a long form format, but it's really designed to be 3-minute TikTok videos. The entire thing is shoppable. Pretty much every outfit that anyone is wearing or like props that they're holding or whatever it is, it's all you can click and shop it directly. So there's a lot of different ways that it is the first of its kind, which is always really exciting to be a part of in any capacity as a, production partner. And yeah, I mean, that one, I'm very good friends with the head creative at the agency who wrote it. Like a good creative team, particularly of something of this scale and magnitude, they knew early on that music was going to be essential to figuring this thing out, to landing impact on it, all those sorts of things. So they hired us to hire a composer and also to supervise the entire project. And so that was a ton of fun. And, we talked with them at great length about, what is the role of music in this project? What is a success for music for this project? What kinds of artists are feeling like the right fit for this sort of thing? What level of engagement would you like from music as a character in this? All those sorts of things were kind of part of that process. And it was really fun. I mean, we got to lean into, holiday rom-com tropes, which was really, really great.
Yeah.
Also just like pepper this thing with as much really fun, interesting, exciting kind of TikTok leaning music as we could. Stuff that we felt excited would perform really well on the platform, stuff from artists that are already really excelling on the platform, all that sort of thing. And what's been particularly exciting is, and I love this, is there were a handful of tracks that we found or were sent that we utilized within the project that are not released in any capacity, but because of the sync and because people are so excited about this, pretty much all of the artists who have songs that aren't released but are part of the project are like fast tracking those releases to come out this week.
Yeah.
Which is always a really wonderful thing to know that, we're part of a artist's marketing strategy to get a new piece of music out into the world, and utilize a great sync as a way to bolster a new single of theirs. So yeah, that was a really fun one. We're excited for it to be out into the world. It's really cute. The work is very special. We're proud of it. The music's great. Some well-known songs, lots of holiday songs, and then the vast majority of it is very unknown, up and coming, really exciting stuff that we're excited for the world to hear.
So cool. Thanks,
And I
Lisa.
think a couple of the artists that are in it, actually, frankly, like I became friends with and like learned about their work through things like this. So
that's great to know that can happen.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Lily, I might leave your question to the end so we can kind of end with that. But so I'm gonna call on Katrina to unmute.
Hi there. Thanks so much, Alec, for coming and telling us all about your process. My question is to do with being prepared as a music creator. It seems the ad world is so broad, and the amounts of music and the styles of music are so vast that you could almost create anything. But do you have any advice for how to prepare for writing more for the ad space and what sort of music to write?
For sure. So there's a couple thoughts on that. The ad world in particular goes through trends when it comes to music. When I was starting in my career, we were sort of leaving like a Mumford & Sons phase, and we were heading into like a Black Keys phase. Shortly after that, it was what people refer to as like the hand claps and ukuleles phase. There's been like a Sigur Rós phase. Like there are certain trends that rise and fall in terms of ad music. I think if you pay attention to the ad world in any capacity, there is a certain type of sound that I find to be very prevalent these days. Very bass groove driven horn blasts, kind of confident, sassy, chewable, vocal phrasing, all those sorts of, like there's a certain sort of cadence and musical sound that seems to be working very well for a lot of brands at this moment. Very high production value, interesting production choices, very contemporary sounding, all those sorts of things. So like that's something that's happening a lot right now. And it's when you get a trend like that, you will find, a lot of brands responding really well to it. One, because they're hearing other brands use it and they want to be part of that sort of conversation. Two, trends only work if they work, and this one works. So a trend is a trend because it's working. At the same time, you will also find a lot of brands who are like, I hate this trend. I want nothing to do with this trend. I want to hear nothing that sounds like an ad song. So there are certain things that are considered ad songs right now, and those might sound wildly different 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever it is. One piece of advice that I've been kind of keeping with me this year, the great Rick Rubin put out his book, The Creative Act, this year, massive bestseller. A lot of people in the creative industry have read it, and for a very good reason. Out of that book, there was one part of it that I particularly held on to really strongly, which was the notion of what is a craftsman versus what is an artist. And a craftsman is somebody who knows what they are set out to do or to create before they go out to create the thing. There's an end goal in sight, and they utilize their skills, their expertise, their experience, their relationships, their collaborative nature, whatever it is, to go out and create said thing. And there's an absolute skill and art in the world of craftsmanship. An artist doesn't begin with a destination, they begin with a question. And they utilize all of those various means to try and answer what that question is, not to get to a specific place, but using the process as a way to figure out where that end goal even is. And so, as a music supervisor, I have had great success with placing things that were made by craftspeople. And I've had great success placing things from a more artistic point of view. Different brands like different things, different projects need different things. I think that the world would be, I think that the world might fall into more sort of a flat place if everyone was only doing craftsman things. And I don't know that there would be enough of a gravitational pull if the whole world was only doing artistic things. So I think that if you're someone who's wanting to get into the space, who's wanting to write in the space and be a part of it and all those sorts of things, I would find a way to find balance as much as possible between those two. Find ways to sharpen both of those attributes and dedicate as much time as you can to either and both of them. I think that you'll find that being a craftsperson and having a brief and knowing what you're set out to do, and like hearing a trend and going, ooh, I want to try to make something like that. You're going to learn so many things from that. And you'll probably also create a greater quantity of work. And quantity is huge in this game. To have an archive of things that you can pitch to somebody is massive. You don't want to have somebody email you with a brief and go, oh, I don't have anything like that. Give me 2 weeks and maybe I'll come up with something. So quantity is huge. Having things in your back pocket is huge. All of those things are why craftsmanship is massively important. But also find time to make things that speak to you as an artistic human being. They'll both feed off of each other. You'll never not learn something by creating a piece of music, whether it is for more artistic purposes or more for craftsman purposes. Use all of it as a learning opportunity. Use all of it as ways to influence the other one. And that's the best thing that I can come up with. Is there's no hard and fast rule. There's going to be periods of your life where you're focused only on craftsman things, and that's going to be great. And then maybe you'll feel like, okay, now it's time to switch. Other times in your life, you'll be focused solely on artistic things, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm really hungry to find a sync. Let me dig back into the craftsman angle and try and learn from that and grow that part of my life. So there's no real set balance or way that anyone's done it that I've gone, that's the exact way to do it. It's different for every person.
Thanks so much. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina. There was a question in the chat. I'll pop over there real quick. Jody Lynn was asking, one of the writing teams does kids tunes, koala, duckies, etc., and have had success on YouTube, but would love to get the songs for product placement. Any words of advice?
Let's see. So is the question like, how do I get my music heard? Or is it more specific, like, is there a place in sync for children's music?
Yeah, maybe Jody Lynn, can you pop in the chat again and clarify that possibly? Or raise your hand if you want to be unmuted.
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, I wasn't able to raise my hand.
Oh, no worries.
Hi, Alex. Nice to meet you. Well, we believe there is a big market for kids music, but we've just been a little bit lost of how to even go about getting someone to hear it. I think that would be
for sure. Do you have any type of sync representation?
I do, but not for the children's songs.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I believe that there is space and room for it. I've gotten briefs on that occasionally. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple ways to do it. I mean, and similar to all of this advice, there's no sort of hard and fast rule. It's sort of about how do you want to go about it? What is your bandwidth and your capability? We all only have so much energy and time and resources in our jar of our lives, and those need to be allocated in ways that are meaningful to us. So there are some people who are self-made machines, and they have had an ability to get to know multiple music supervisors individually, or editors or copywriters or whoever, and are just like, on LinkedIn constantly, and just like getting their music directly to people who want to hear it. And they're just somehow able to handle all of that in addition to the creation of the art. Other people are, only able to allocate their efforts toward the making of the art and need assistance from somebody who can handle the sales and getting the word out about the art and all those sorts of things, and making the connections and all of that. And then in terms of that side of things, you know, some people's strategy is to find sync representation who have an abundance of a certain kind of music that's very similar to theirs. And the thinking behind that is like, oh, maybe this sync representation is like the go-to person for music supervisors to get children's music or any other kind of music. Other artists are like, oh, I don't really want to be a small fish in a big pond. I want to go to a salesperson who tells me that they don't have much in this world, but they are very interested in it, so that when a brief for this comes to them, I have a good chance of landing something within that, you know, smaller pot. You know, so there's so many different ways to go about it. Ultimately, when figuring out who your team is going to be, you know, thinking about, you know, who is going to best represent you as a person and your art in all of the rooms that you are not going to be in. You know, predominantly virtual rooms. You know, what is the email going to look like that's going to have your music in it? Do you like the way that they communicate? Do you like the way that they curate their artists? Do you like the payment model that they've set up? Do you like the terms of the deal? Do they have a history of licensing that feels appealing to you and is in the kind of space that you can see yourself in? You know, if you make music that's geared toward one sort of thing, and there's a sync representation company that's like, oh, we get syncs all the time, but you look under the hood and they're all for things that are totally different from the kind of thing that yours would be, is it even useful to you that they get a ton of syncs? You know, so really just sort of keeping all of those things in mind, doing a lot of homework, asking good questions, treating it like dating a little bit, you know, and really sort of visualizing like, what is a success for you, putting it on paper, getting a really good sense of what that is, and making sure that, you know, anyone you're talking to is able to address what that idea of success is to you, engaging how you feel based off of their answers off of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That helps. Thank you.
Thanks for that one. That's a good question. Good topic to be talking about. Eddie, I'm gonna unmute you. You've been waiting for a while. Thank you.
Hey, Alec, how are you? Good to connect again, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Good to see you.
I can't remember where we first met, whether in real life, whether it was Durango or somewhere, but just really always appreciate your generosity with your time and your care for, you know, helping indie artists and everybody succeed and thrive. Yeah, I was just I think I may have an answer to my own question, but I'd love to hear your point of view, especially with your vast experience from ad agencies, you know, DDB and Radish and all your experience. There's always this sort of, I feel, because I like with that, what you're talking about with the Rick Rubin book, where that section about craftsman versus artist, like I feel like I'm both. Like I have my artist project, Eddie be shy, like don't be shy, and being a craftsman. So like aiming, you know, to meet the needs of the client for ad. You know, I feel the pull between both worlds. At the same time, you know, I feel like an artist wants to release music regardless of what happens to it, right? But from your point of view, from the ads agencies, do the clients you work with generally want to have music that is unreleased so that it's like fresh for their brand, or are they more geared towards like the craftsman, whatever music's going to help sell the product the best? Is there more like a percentage, or what's your experience in that world?
Great question. At the end of the day, generally speaking, it's just about the song. What complements the picture best? What complements the story the best? You know, as music supervisors, we're there to obviously find the song and help sell it through. And generally speaking, we're here to provide as much additional ammunition as helpful to help get something sold in. Generally speaking, more often than not, it's just about the song. does the song work? Which song feels like the most natural fit for picture, and what makes this campaign feel like a success? So whether it's released or unreleased, or is by an artist with a ton of momentum or none at all those sorts of things, you'll occasionally find that those pieces of information maybe get creatives excited in one direction or another. Clients, generally speaking, are more just like, does this thing make my brand look cool, or does it not? Does it help tell the story that we agreed to finance? Does it not? All those sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, it sort of depends. I mean, I think nowadays, particularly on digital and social, anytime that, in the YouTube comments or whatever, somebody's able to go, what song is this? And like, for there eventually to be an answer to that question, is always a good thing. Like, if you can drive it to something existing, if you can drive it to a Spotify link or to whatever, like, that's often going to be a positive. Even if a song is released in conjunction with a spot or whatever it is, like that's always a huge home run. But then other times, like, brands really like the idea of ownership. And if something is like, the only way you can hear this song is on our spot, that can often make the brand feel really special. So I've seen it go both ways. I can't say that I've ever found a song either being released or unreleased being a hindrance to using a song. If it's a song that's released and another brand has used it, that might be a hindrance for certain brands. But if it's like, the song's either on Spotify or not, I haven't really generally seen that go into like a decision of should we use the song or not. If the thing works, whether it's been released or unreleased, whether it's came out a week ago or 5 years ago, tends to not really matter. As music supervisors, like, I tend to get really excited about, like, this is unreleased, it's coming out right around when your spot is, or like, this just came out hot off the presses. Like, it's those sorts of things that like might make somebody more primed to be excited to press play on something. Or like, I have a great relationship with this artist, this thing's unreleased, but maybe if we play our cards right, they'll put it out around our thing. Like, those are things that might get someone more excited to press play, but ultimately if they press play and it doesn't work, doesn't matter how hyped I've gotten them on it. So it's all of that is sort of ancillary, and like, that's not to say that the song's not great. There are songs that are some of the best written, best produced songs in the world that just haven't found that right marriage with a piece of content. It's all about the marriage. And like, occasionally you'll have a song that's so good that you'll get a team to like maybe rewrite their script a little bit, or like change the edit a little bit to make it work. But generally speaking, music is there to support a visual idea. And some marriages just work perfectly and everybody walks away happy. Others, the song might be incredible, check every cultural box, do XYZ, all those sorts of things, but it just doesn't quite have the right energy that the cut needs, or the lyric is not quite as on the nose as this other lyric from another song is, or whatever. So all that to say, if something is wonderful and it hasn't gotten any syncs or whatever it is, it's really no discredit to the song itself. It's this crazy, every time a sync happens is like a fucking miracle. It's just like, how did this thing that was made for purely generally intrinsic purposes happen to work on this other thing that was made in its own time and purposes? It's just a wild thing when those happen to come together. And, generally speaking, the one that makes it through is great. And then there's usually a stable of 10, 20, 30 also equally great options that just, for whatever reason, weren't as perfect of a match. And it's not to say that the worst songs are less deserving, or that this was their one chance to get a sync and now it's gone, or whatever it is. It's just all about that perfect match.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alec. It really helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. There's a couple more questions here we can try to get through before the end. Someone asked if you work more with instrumentals or songs with vocals.
Mostly instrumental. A lot of spots will either like begin or end with a hook, like a short one. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, commercials require a certain amount of either dialogue or voiceover to get a point across. It takes a lot of trust for a brand to relinquish that amount of control and just let the music do the talking. Sometimes it happens, but generally speaking, a brand wants to have a little bit more control to be like, yeah, but they have to know when the product is coming out, or they have to know what the product does, or I have to set up the scene of this story and have two people talking so that that comes across. And so vocals tend to just sort of get in the way of all of those things. But like a single line of a hook or whatever, using it almost like a musical accent just to give it a little bit more punch, those tend to be utilized quite a bit. But like music as a storytelling tool or something very vocal focused tend to fall behind a little bit over instrumentals, but things shift. I see lots of ads these days where, that information is highlighted through text and that leaves a lot more room for vocal. Or a brand brave enough to tell a story without dialogue or voiceover, and just like the song is crucial to making the idea work.
Great. Okay, a couple for the end. I was thinking could discuss where you source most of your music, and then also what songs you might be looking for right now for current projects. What types of music?
Sourcing music kind of comes from everywhere. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just emails that are sent to myself and my team, agnostic from projects, of just like, here's new stuff, check this out. And we go through as much as we can, and we ingest as much as we can, and we organize as much as we can. And there's a ceiling to how much that can be. And then there are these specific projects where we have a brief it's generally a combination of us going through our own libraries, doing our own, internet, Spotify, whatever, digging to find things. And then also reaching out to trusted gatekeepers that we trust will be able to send us stuff that's resourceful. And so, Jodalyn, this is sort of responding to your question also a little bit, like in terms of, if you're going to have sync representation, choosing wisely. As supervisors, so much of our job is sort of cataloging in our brains, who do we really trust for who has an abundance of a specific type of music. If I have a brief for vintage, funk and soul recordings from Brazil, I have to have a catalog in my brain of like, who are the people. I'm not just going to go out and find all that myself, particularly if there's budget parameters or specific lyrics or whatever it is. Like, my job becomes infinitely easier if I have a slew of gatekeepers in terms of publishing, label, or sync that I know are really, really good at finding and locating and clearing that specific kind of thing. And if I can have a couple of people that I can shoot the brief to, that I trust that I'm aiming in the right direction, I feel confident that my email in a couple of days is going to come back and it's going to be exactly what I was looking for. So I have to, that is much more efficient than me trying to find all that myself or email the entirety of the music industry and go through the entirety of what gets sent to me and filtering through all of that information. So as artists, it's really important to align yourself with people that you trust have relationships with music supervisors and are part of those email lists or are in their brains as people that they trust, and that you understand the kind of thing that maybe they tend to get reached out to for. So it's a combination of all of those things whenever we're doing a project. And that varies. Lots of brands are like, we want something hugely recognizable. So that's generally speaking, we're going straight to the majors, because that's what they do. If it's, we need, a beautiful independent singer-songwriter and we only have a couple grand and, we really want somebody up and coming that amount of money is going to really make a lot of a big difference to. We have a roster of people that we go to for that. If it's, we need super forward-looking electronic, hardcore or whatever sort of stuff, like that's going to be a different subset of the industry than the singer-songwriter stuff. So it's really sort of keeping tabs in terms of who's out there, and knowing like who have we sent briefs to that sent us really spot on stuff, who have we sent briefs to that like didn't really hit the mark and kind of just pitched us stuff that was new and exciting to them, but like wasn't really what I was asking for. Like all those things are things that we as supervisors keep top of mind when we're trying to find great songs for projects.
Great. Are there any agencies that you could recommend to people who might be looking for representation?
I don't want to necessarily endorse anyone specifically, just because I kind of have to be a little agnostic on that front to do my job really properly. And again, it also really kind of depends on what kind of music you make. Depending on what kind of music you make, I would probably recommend very different people from different types of music. But all of that being said, let me, and I can go a couple minutes over because that's totally fine. I just put my email in the chat as like cost of entry for all of you guys for being here, for being great, for asking great questions. Like I want to make myself available to you guys.
Thank you.
So like, feel free to send me your music and ask me that question directly, and I'll do my best to give you a specific answer.
Thank you so much. That's so generous of you. And then also we can take more questions on our Facebook group, the Creators Circle. So if any of you, I'll post something on there today. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to put them in there and we can get them answered. Yeah, this was so wonderful. Thank you so much for all this information. It's so great to hear from different supervisors and everyone's own, tips and tricks in the industry. It's great to kind of create a toolbox, I think, and hear from everybody. So thank you so much for sharing.
You are so welcome. Thank you guys. Excited to hear more from you guys. Yeah, super fun, great questions. Yeah, really appreciate that. You're all taking the time. Best of luck to all of you guys. Any way that I can be of help and service, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to drop that Zoom, or sorry, not the Zoom link, the disco link in the chat now, for anybody who has a song that they would like to submit. We'll create a little playlist on our Pandion disco library, which is searchable by any supervisor that uses disco, but we'll also let Alec know when it's up on there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so thank you
Yeah,
everybody so
this
much.
Disco playlist is specific for you, Alex, and
Yeah.
then other supervisors would have access to it, but this is for you.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody.
Thanks everyone.
We
Great to
we have
chat.
two more
Thank you
work-
so much.
Right. We have 2 more workshops until the end of the year, and the last one is going to be with Mark hosting a holiday party. What day is that on?
The 20th at
it's gonna
5
be like
p.m. Pacific time.
5 p.m. happy hour. So join us for a party and giveaways and cheers. And Alex, looking forward to seeing you again in person. And thank you so much for your wisdom and your thoughts. And everybody in our community, thank you for showing up with your beautiful vibes. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
Good to see everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.